Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Code Remix Weekly. I am your usual host, Sam. Not with me is Tim, who's off gallivanting in Switzerland. I believe he's at the Basel I conference this week. I've personally been to Basel once before, and it's a lovely little town right on the intersection of France, Switzerland, and Germany. If you fly there, you fly into France, and then you drive down the road and you're in Switzerland, and then half the town is across the river in Germany. So it's a fun little spot, and I'm sure that Tim will be back. I believe Tim will be back next week, and maybe he can give us a little report on how it went. But in the meantime, we can jump into our announcements for the week. Since the last time we met a week ago, the Open Rewrite 8.63 is out, and there have been a couple little patch releases bringing the latest to 8.63.3. Mostly bug fixes in here, although I know there have been some TOML recipes added. There's been a lot of support on JavaScript TypeScript in particular, which brings us to the announcement of adding JavaScript support, which is available to check out in this blog post that I will paste into the live feed for anyone to check out, which just talks about the capabilities for doing JavaScript TypeScript refactoring that have been added, kind of how it works, comparisons to code mods and other refactoring technology that is both available independently of Open Rewrite and something that you can run from Open Rewrite recipes, and with examples of some migrations in action. And there's even a cool little video here showing how a JavaScript migration running in the modern CLI can look. So go and check that out. If you are a front-end developer, and if you're not a front-end developer, share it with someone who is. Let's see. Oh, and we are going to be at the Open Source in Finance Forum in New York. So if you are in or near New York, 5 days from now, you can meet us there. And by us, I don't remember off the top of my head who's attending. I'm not going to be there. If I had to guess, it's probably Jonathan, right? Well, I don't know. Someone from Modern is going to be here, and I was not organized enough to get the specifics, but should be a good time. Last announcement for today, our own annual summit, Code Remix Summit in Miami, May 11th through 13th is coming up. And if you want to be a speaker, which obviously involves some of your expenses being paid, like the ticket fee and I think maybe some subsidization of the resort. I don't remember the exact terms we're offering, but the important thing is that the call for papers, the deadline is the end of this month. So if you want to be a speaker here, get in your proposals by the end of October. And if you want to just attend and check out the cool talks and say hi to me, I'll surely be there in person. Go ahead and just register as an attendee. Okay, I think that's all of our announcements for this week, which brings us to our main topic, which is securing GitHub Actions, and a mystery guest on to talk about it, fresh or still in witness protection to keep him safe from all of the horrific criminals and dictators that he likes to hang around with, is Scott. How you doing, Scott?
Hey, Sam, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good to be here. Oh no, they've seen your true face. They're coming for you.
No.
All right, I may have exaggerated Scott's hardcore background a bit. It was mostly because we didn't have an updated picture of him to use that I think he was positioned as a mystery guest. But
Yeah,
how you doing, Scott?
that's exactly right. As I was joking backstage, that was 20 years and 20 pounds ago that my profile picture was taken, and I haven't really seen the need to change it. So
Yeah, until you could take one where you look younger and hotter, I mean, why bother updating it, right?
exactly.
Yeah. So I understand the main topic you've brought here to discuss today is the modernization update of GitHub Actions and other like CI configuration files and all that kind of thing. Is that right, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey, and we're probably not going to wind up where you expected us to.
All
But
right.
yeah,
Unexpected journey sounds fun.
yeah, let's do it. So for a little bit of background, like I'm on the UI engineering side of Modern. So I think it's safe to say that open rewrite recipes are not something I do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
But back in September, like a whole 6 weeks ago, GitHub Actions was in the news a lot for various reasons. There were a lot of security-related incidents around data exfiltration attacks on open source projects, supply chain attacks that were being carried out through NPM modules inside of GitHub Actions. And so it's kind of like top of mind. And we use GitHub Actions extensively in our day-to-day.
Right.
And one day, just kind of cruising Hacker News as you do, and I came across this tool called Sizemore or Zsmore, which positioned itself as a static analysis tool for GitHub Actions. And I thought to myself, okay, go on, I'm listening. And so it's a open source project that's out there. It's written in Rust. Pulled down a copy and ran it against one of our projects, and it's like, okay, like I see what you're doing here. Like you're creating like basically like a report of like the hotspots that you need to go manually remediate. It offered a few like safe fixes, but for the most part, it was just trying to like create reports that you could integrate as a part of like CI or other tooling to help you understand.
So like fail your CI build if your CI build isn't good enough.
Yeah, I know, a little bit meta in that sense. But it was pretty neat because it was highlighting things like excessive permissions. So oftentimes in GitHub Actions, you'll see like a permission block at the top of a file, implying that those permissions are going to carry down to every step, even though every step of an action may not need all those permissions. And so you can be more granular in your permission definition. There's also warnings about like template injection attacks. And one that we've seen play out in the industry, which is a lot of times when you use a GitHub action, you'll reference it by like a version number. So like I want to use foobar baz at versions 6 or at 6, basically, which is referencing a tag. Of course, like if that underlying repository has an attack and someone's able to go like redefine what tag 6 is, now everyone who's using that gets malicious code. And so the ultra, or not really ultra, the best
more
route,
secure.
The more secure route is just to use the commit SHA of the action. So I was finding a lot of those things. And one of the things that we've been using a lot more in the last couple months is agentic coding tools like Claude. And so I took this tool and I said, hey, Claude, I want you to run this and then go through and try to fix everything that it flags. And I called this like what we refer to as like a side quest, right? Like fire up in a terminal and I'm going to get back to whatever else.
You're working on something else. Whenever it finishes, you'll check back in on it and see if you have something better than what you had before.
Exactly. And so I went through and it proposed a lot of changes. And like I went through and I was like kind of selective. I was like, yeah, I'll take these, maybe skip these for the moment because I know like it's not really an issue, but good to know about. And so now the next question is, I'm asking myself like, so how do I use this tool on like the 100+ repositories that we have internally? Because I kind of want to know the same security, I want to understand the security posture across like the whole organization.
Right.
So second side quest, hey, Claude, can you take this project and the rules that they've written in Rust and create an open rewrite recipe from it.
Aha.
And sure enough, it can. And a big part of that was, thanks to like the testing that we have available to us, where we can have like that the really simple before and after. And especially with GitHub Actions, it's YAML, so it's really easy to kind of like look at, reason about,
Yeah.
have very targeted examples. And so it was able to go through and it was able to basically create a bunch of find recipes for these types of GitHub Action security vulnerabilities or things of concern, rather. Test pass, great. But I feel like the code that it wrote is the kind of code that keeps you up at night, Sam. And so, I published it, was able to like run it, spot check it against a bunch of our repositories and say like, yeah, this is adding a marker and informing me about something as I would expect. So what I thought was the more interesting part of this little side quest is I thought, well, how can I improve this code to be more idiomatic for open rewrite? And so one of the things that I've been kind of experimenting with is trying to create what Claude Code would call a sub agent, which is kind of like a custom context or like system prompt, if you were, for working on these kinds of things. And to do that, I basically said, hey, go write your own sub agent using the rewrite YAML directory from Open Rewrite. So you can like start to understand like what are the building blocks of like YAML recipes that are already available as a part of Rewrite Core, and then figure out like what the rules are. What are the good patterns? What are the bad patterns? Because what I found was with the initial implementation, it was like, yeah, it was doing nested loops and like looping through, looking for like the right values to understand a flag. And so this is something I continue to like refine and like go back and ask it, like, how do I make this like more succinct, more idiomatic, use existing tool sets out of Rewrite YAML. And, once it had that, I was able to then say, okay, I just wrote these new recipes, use this sub agent to go like basically do a code review and offer me opportunities to like improve the recipe quality. And that's where it started to like find things like, oh, I don't need to like do nested looping. I can use JSON path matching to find exactly what I'm looking for. And JSON path matching is a really terrible syntax to have to remember in your day-to-day. And again, I'm a UI engineer, so if I can offload this as a side quest and have something that like understands this, beautiful, right? And so I continue to like go through and even to up until last week, like revisiting like, how do I make these better? How do I make it more idiomatic? How do I use the tools that are already out there? The idea being like the next time I need to go write a recipe working with YAML files, I can just use the sub agent that already kind of has a list of like good examples and bad examples of how to write these recipes. Then I hope to be able to get it closer to like that, one shot, like ideal of like a prompt and then just does it. You don't have to worry about it. So that's been, and the really neat thing about that is I had a completely functioning set of tests. So as it sat there and iterated, like if it saw that it was failing tests, it would go back and revisit its approach. And then I was able to also take like, all right, what did you learn from this refactoring? And then how can you put that back into like your own sub-agent definition to like learn even more about like what works in practice and not.
All right, so this is a pretty compelling story you have here. There's a few things that I'd love for you to like share your screen and show us like what kind of like what were the results of the recipe run? Like what kind of changes did it make to some GitHub actions? Like you've described them in the abstract. I'd love to see a diff of whether it's from the recipe run or just like from the commit of like what kinds of things it changed. I think there's probably some GitHub actions we could show that like don't have any secrets in them would obviously be populated from environment variables, so they should be pretty safe to show. or maybe you ran these on some open source repositories. We could look at those. I would also be curious as after this to like take a look at the recipe and maybe some of the iterations it went through. And yeah, so I think that the story you're telling here is one that is both specifically applicable and relevant to anyone who uses like GitHub Actions for CI, but is also a more general pattern that could be followed by anyone to use coding agents and open rewrite recipes to achieve like broad uplift of some quality concern or banishing some anti-pattern, across your entire organization, and to have this like big impact on the security posture or whatever best practice your organization as a side quest, is something you could do in addition to your day job, a promo item, if you will, for the performance review.
There you go.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, I can do that in just 1 second. I do want to kind of like wrap out this tale though, with kind of like the second thing that I ran into, where I was able to then go like kind of apply like everything from the September, which was the other week we had an issue with one of our repositories that runs like GitHub Actions and does a bunch of like dependency analysis for us, started failing. Particularly with the GitHub action on like its post-run step. And I looked at the error and I was like, this feels like maybe GitHub has changed their API and this action just isn't aware of it. And what this action does is it basically like uses a GitHub app to generate effectively like a one-time use token. And that kind of allows like an action in one repository to clone a private repository from our organization. And usually that's separate, right? When you run a GitHub action, like the token that it generates for you is able to clone itself, but not other projects. And the pattern here, or the options here, are usually like a personal access token, which is kind of an anti-pattern, or you use like a GitHub app that has explicit permission to perform that. So this action's failing. I go to, it's a third-party action. We've used it for years. I was like, well, let's go see if there's an issue. Open up the repository. Oh, it was deprecated back in July and is now archived. So that's neat. But quick search shows that like, oh, GitHub has basically a first-class equivalent of the same thing. It's just a different like action reference, and it's got slightly different like keys that I need in order to plug in my specifics. And so here it was a case where it's like, okay, like I got this working on the project, and it's like, I know we use this pattern multiple other places. How do I do this change in mass? And so that was very much well, I know I have a before and I know I have the after that works. So now I have my unit test, and now it was, hey, Claude, use the sub-agent that I have. Here's my before, here's my after. Start with the tests, take the tests, and now try to do this as a declarative recipe using only the recipes that we already have available. And it did it pretty quick. And it was not something, its approach was not a way I would have thought to have solved the problem. I would have looked to like try to have done the transformation as all part of one recipe, like changing the name and then the keys. But the approach they came up with is, well, it'll just run like 2 or 3 recipes, like change the action and then update the keys afterwards. But, you know, again, it was a great use case where you could have kind of this pre-existing or this known like before and after. There's your test. Now just write the recipe. And also here's your very specific knowledge about like what tools you can use from Open Rewrite. And, you know, from that, I was able to like run the recipe across a bunch of repos, open pull requests to kind of migrate en masse. So yeah, it's been, again, side quest, just something that's running off in another terminal tab that
yeah, this is a great story. I'd love to see some visuals with it. Like show me the recipe, show me the recipe runs. Yeah, it's one thing to hear about it, but you know, seeing is believing.
Sure. So again, I do want to preface this again by saying that the recipes from Sizemore are largely search recipes.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're doing is really just trying to highlight things. And so here's an
Could you zoom?
example.
Could you make the text of your browser a bit bigger? Perfect. Thank you.
All right. So I ran this against a bunch of open source projects that are under what we collectively refer to as Netflix, Spring, and Apache.
Yeah.
Uh, Here we go, permission. It's really the rules that it wants to see are like comments about why you're adding permissions, which
Mm-hmm.
again, it's like, yeah, that's not a bad thing to have. I would appreciate that as like a consumer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, Excessive write permissions that it's finding. This one is pinned to a SHA, but that may not actually match. So you should probably go check because it says that it's version this
Mm-hmm.
commit SHA maps to this version, but may not.
But does it actually?
Yeah.
So wait, I saw in that same file there was a similar commit SHA comment that it didn't highlight, like right above that result. And is that a case? Was this like right above there, actions checkout v5? Like, did it actually go check the repository?
No, and I think you just found like a good opportunity for me to take this and add it as another test case to go refine that recipe.
Yeah, there we go. Maybe it only returns one result, and it could definitely be made smarter because a recipe is just a program. So you could have it go look at the repository and check, does this SHA match the tag in the comment?
Absolutely, and that was a conscious choice I made to not have it do that.
That is kind of an extra step, yeah.
Yeah. And with even with the underlying inspiration in the Sizemore project, they have like you can run in like an offline mode where it doesn't do any outbound calls, or there's an online mode where you pass an access token and then it can do calls against the GitHub API to validate. But those are the kinds of things that it is flagging, and I think that's going to be pretty common for a lot of these projects here. Now let me pull up some code examples real quick.
Yeah.
Over here, my glorious pull requests. And figure out where the share screen is. Share screen. Share window. Back over to Safari. Okay, so I think this was probably the original. You can do it. There we go. Pull request, which was kind of like the phase 1 implementation.
So we're looking at the recipe implementation. Can we zoom in the text a bit, make this a bit bigger?
Ooh, yes.
Very good. Yeah.
So let's see if I can get to like a good example. Again, fors, ifs, nested.
So you described an iterative process of not just creating these recipes but improving this. Are we looking at the first version of this recipe or like the final version?
Yeah, this is like V1 of this recipe, where we are, very expressive, very verbose in how we're defining how this recipe should run. And that was the kind of things that I was running into. Again, here's an example of like the successive permission check, like again, using like the really nice like testing capability that we have with like the before and afters to make sure that it's adding in these markers as we expect. If I bounce back over here to another tab and then look at last week's, I think that is an example of where it has done a little bit of the improvements that I've asked it. And something that the model has really been insistent on doing is adding these these like utility methods inside of like a helper class. And I really tried to steer it away from that to make these all kind of self-contained. But after the third or fourth time, it's like, yeah, I get it. I'm just using the same pattern over and over again in all these recipes. Like,
if I see the same pattern being used over and over again in recipes, if that pattern is applicable to like a particular kind of LST element or set of LST elements, that's generally where I would go and make a trait for it, and
Okay.
make and make like if it's we're talking about YAML, so if we're talking about like certain like key value pairs have the trait of defining a GitHub action permission, and you're frequently doing something to change permissions, then you could create this like higher level permission abstraction out of in a trait. And so that's often a convenient place to put like utility methods for open rewrite recipes.
Okay, so again, this is not my day-to-day job, and this is a good tip for what I need to go teach my sub-agent about, which is traits.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that utility here in a second. But real quickly, I just wanted to point out that, like, yeah, okay, now we're using JSON path matching probably a lot more efficiently than we were before, reducing some of the level of nesting in our conditional checks. And if I bounce down, like, yeah, I'll say it's my code because I made the commit. I didn't personally write it, but I watched something write it.
Sure. It's your code that, in the sense that I had a problem with it, I'd be like, "Hey, Scott, what the hell is wrong with this terrible code you did?"
I signed off on it at some level, so
Signed off
I'll
on
own
it.
it. So rate my code, Sam. Like, I've got like, this is what we came up with. Like, getting scalar values rather than having to like perform what it believed was necessary in these instance of checks to get values. Finding mappings with keys where we're looking for a particular thing, or finding scalar values, and finding nested values as well. So I would love to get rid of this if this is something that like traits could help with. Like, then
Potentially all of these kinds of like helper methods could go on a trait. It's kind of like anytime you might be tempted to be like, well, why doesn't YAML.block have this like get scalar value method? Or particularly if it was something that like was applicable to some YAML.blocks but not all. That's a good place where a trait could be used to discriminate between contexts where these like helper methods make sense and ones where they don't, right? If you might have some YAML blocks where that's not applicable, then the filtering of that could be part of the trait implementation. But I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world to have a couple little helper methods. I was not made insensate with rage at seeing those, so it's
okay,
it's fine. It's fine.
Good. Baby steps, right? Yeah. So let's see. The other GitHub environment recipe. Again, this is on kind of like the refactor. I forget which one, but there was one recipe that I had where it just declared up front like 3 or 4 different JSON path matchers for things that it knew it was going to be looking for, and was like, this feels better. Like just reading it as reading the recipe and like trying to like reason about it and understand it. Oh, there we go. On cue ish. There we go. And again, like the syntax, I've tried to use in the past, and sometimes it just drives me a little bit bonkers. Here was, I did want to show, like, this was the other kind of the second part of the story with the having to migrate between 2 different actions that had slightly different like parameter usages as well. And again, this was the kind of thing where it's like, I think if it's again heavily using like that JSON path matching, and it probably would have taken me 5 or 10 minutes just to like figure out how to write that syntax, as opposed to just saying like, here's the before, here's the after, go
totally.
write as a declarative recipe and like spit it out in the directory, and then I can open a pull request and kind of be on my way. Running that at scale. So yeah, small little sample there. And then
that's good stuff. So do we have a PR that or a commit that shows the changes made by this recipe?
my gosh, you are gonna ask that. Somewhere I don't remember what environment I did it in. So
I mean, you can go run it. You can go run it again right now. It shouldn't take very long, right?
that's true. I could do that. I could do that. I actually did do that earlier. So here we go. Okay, Sam, we'll do some live demo. Why not?
It's just more compelling for the viewers to not just hear you describe something, but actually see it. You know,
Tempt all the fate. What am I looking for?
like GitHub best practices or something.
Well, this one I want to look for the thing we were just looking at over here to migrate. That's what I want. Come on.
You need to put like quotes in there, or
No, I think I need to do ID or something. There we go. All right, I'm going to run this on the Modern organization.
Yeah, let's go for it. Although, have you already like committed all the results of running this?
Not all of them, no.
Okay, cool. Nice. We're getting some results back. Oh, yep. GitHub repository owner instead of something hard coded. That's good. That's good. Yeah, that one looks like it was a mistake for like owner open rewrite for something under the Modern org. So
no,
that probably wasn't. No,
that was actually intentional.
So wait, is that what a problem?
No, because we do clone open rewrite projects from a Modern.
Okay, so it would work just fine with that owner. Okay, cool.
Yeah. But this one's a good example, so I can go ahead and commit this, and I'm going to open a pull request, and then commit the selected.
Wait, so what were the changes in that one? I missed it.
Yeah, sure. Go back here. So this is basically swapping out like a third-party action with
for the first-party GitHub action. Yeah, I see.
Changing it from snake case to dash rise, kebab case, whatever.
Yeah, kebab case.
Yeah, and then adding in the owner for specificity. And or may have been a required field. I can't remember. But based on the number of results, it looks like most of the changes have been committed to our other projects, which is good. But same kind of thing. Again, it was a very straightforward recipe in that sense, where it's just from one to the other. But I can already start to see like, okay, like there are other cases where I want to go from like one action to another. And I know what it looks like before, and I know what it looks like after. So help me figure out like the best way.
The middle part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. It's kind of like classically the kind of tasks that that AI and LLMs are good at. Of like, I have X, the input to the function, and I have Y, what the function outputs. Make me the function that converts X into Y. And when you have that before and after to keep the LLM honest, it works well. You know, it limits how far it could stray away from doing what you want. And I fully agree. It is very convenient to be able to have it remember arcane little syntaxes like JSON path matcher. Like I personally never really got into doing much shell scripting for myself, but you know I want my custom bash commands and whatever else on hand. So I've enjoyed having the LLM on hand to remember the syntax of bash for me, so that I don't have to. I just be like, I want to navigate to this directory and read the file and stick it in and search with it or whatever. And I'm like, okay, here's your shell command. Great, perfect. Lets you specialize a bit and leave the things you just dabble in up to the LLM for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm on these side quests. I'm looking to maximize the value, and I could extract for like the least amount of effort put into it. And so like the smarter you can use tools and like custom prompts or sub agents or slash commands or whatever it may be, and like these agentic coding tools to like help narrow down and ultimately like just reduces the amount of time you have to put into it, like in the long run to provide incremental value. And even on these like find recipes, you know, the byproduct of being able to get a data table out of like the recipe runs, like, you know, it may not go through and auto remediate because there's still like a lot of manual decision making that like we feel needs to be done to resolve these. You can at least have like an awareness across your organization of like how to do that.
Yeah, totally. And one thing we kind of talk about with these like sort of best practices things, or like banishing a security anti-pattern, is you've done this recipe run once, you've fixed these problems for now, but tomorrow someone could come in and commit a new one, right? Could copy and paste something. Heck, an LLM could copy and paste in like the name of the old GitHub action that was replaced, the third party one that was replaced with the first party one. There's
Yeah.
surely lots of training data out there showing that being used in GitHub Actions. It'd be very easy for someone to reintroduce that. So is this a recipe run to search for and apply these best practices that we're gonna like run on some kind of scheduled basis? Like, are we gonna run this like every week? Are we gonna run this as part of a release process? Or I know you're involved in our SOC 2 Type 2 security audits. Is this something you're going to be attesting to or working into our process on an ongoing basis so that these gains are not ephemeral?
Yeah, that's a really good question that I haven't really thought through all the way. But I could certainly see going through like the list of recipes that we were able to like generate and like
Hmm.
subsetting those down to the ones that were really important to us. You
Hmm.
know, I think it would be worth like continuing to expand this to a very as a kind of like a second recipe, like, you know, for example, referencing like an action by its tag, like, but actually go and validating like
Yeah,
that tag,
matches the SHA.
changing it, or yeah, or vice versa, converting it over from the tag to the SHA, and then adding something that goes through and make sure that like, yeah, the SHA matches the tag.
Yeah, and
Um,
if you had that in the recipe, that might actually become the thing that detects that a supply chain attack has occurred.
yeah,
If yesterday the SHA matched the tag and today the SHA no longer matches the tag, maybe if that recipe run was running on a schedule, maybe it's
yeah,
you who breaks the news of the next supply chain attack because you have the automation running to detect exactly that kind of thing happening.
exactly. And it doesn't have to be me, Sam. This is on our open rewrite organization, and you know,
Oh,
Apache
so
2
are these
license.
recipes you publish open source? Or are these
I,
these recipes for the people?
that's where our GitHub Actions recipes live. So that's
Ah, so
where I
this is just added to GitHub Open Rewrite GitHub Actions.
rewrite GitHub Actions. Yep, correct.
Yeah, all right. Well, let me just post the link to that to the people. So there is, I putting the link in chat to the GitHub Actions repository. And I guess suppose if I look at these commits, yeah, I can see the commits you've made for refactoring security recipes with the YAML helper utility and what have you. So yeah, anyone who is curious to see Scott's work here or benefit from it yourself, check these out.
Or
And
go
was that Scott?
remix it. Go remix it, right? This is the
Yeah,
beauty
yeah,
of
go
open
remix it.
source. Like we're able to take like another open source project and use that as inspiration for like the kinds of things that
Hmm.
we could look for. And so there's no reason why we shouldn't be able as a community be able to go take these and use them as the foundation to remix it into either more comprehensive change recipes or find new opportunities for new rules.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you know some GitHub Action security best practice that is missed from the list, or that you want to be sure is covered as part of the recipe or want to automate, this is a open source repository. I think this one is Apache too. Maybe I'll just double. Okay, so this is Modern source available, so anyone can use sources freely available for anyone to look at and contribute to. So if you want to add something to this or use one of these recipes, pursuant to the terms of that license, you are welcome to do so. All right, well, good stuff, Scott. I think this is a great example of just the kind of practice we would like to encourage for the whole industry, right? Of like, hey, once you found an anti-pattern that you want to banish or a best practice that you want to apply ubiquitously, the only way to avoid backsliding on maintaining that best practice or banishing that anti pattern is to automate it and run that automation continuously. We've told the story many times, probably on Code Remix as well, of one principal engineer we worked with who said he felt like a he had a bunch of anti-patterns and needed to keep out of their code bases and best practices that he wanted to keep in the code base. And he said he felt like a nagging parent telling his junior engineer children, clean up your room, put away your toys, put the socks in the wash. And he was like, I hated that dynamic of being this like nagging parent whining at my children to be more responsible. I wanted to be a colleague and a mentor, not a nag. So he was very, very happy to encode those best practices in a recipe and to have that followed in perpetuity, and also not have the anxiety that like this thing is going to creep back in the second he looks away and drops his guard.
I feel like that's a really great analogy with my experience in the agentic coding of these as well. It's the first half, it very much was kind of like, I could nag you, but I'm not going to. But I'm going to like try to teach you the rules about how to do this, so I don't have to nag you in the future when you try to build these things. Yeah, great parallel. Thank you.
Yeah. So Scott, you're a father. Has that made you better at using these agentic coding tools that you've had to had to learn how to speak to small children?
Yeah, a little bit. I definitely find myself slipping into the stop. I don't
now,
think you're getting
Claude.
it. Yeah, it's very much that. I think I've told Claude to hold the phone a few times and then doing what it's doing, which I think is just more about me being able to find some zen in my daily life, more so than anything by channeling the frustration towards my I don't even want to say Claude is a junior engineer because I feel like that could be demeaning to junior engineers. So
sure,
my robot assistant. There we go.
Yeah, robot assistant. I once had a manager who has a hobby trained dogs, and I asked him, like what lessons have you learned from training dogs that you bring to managing a team of human engineers? Maybe kind of trying to get him to maybe say something comparing us to dogs, maybe reveal a bias there. But he gave what I thought was a very good and diplomatic answer, which was just that if the dog isn't doing what I want it to, it's because I haven't communicated that clearly enough to it. Right? It's if the dog isn't doing what I want, the onus is on me to better explain what I want and to get that message across. And I'm like, okay, well, I failed to with my very basic rhetorical trap to get you to compare your direct reports to dogs and maybe stir the pot of office drama a little bit. But okay, legitimately good answer. Yeah, you win this one, boss.
Again, very much the same thing.
Very much the same
out with
thing.
my experience in like agentic coding, which is like the quality of the input and the instruction greatly will influence the output that you get.
Absolutely.
And so really, to me, it just kind of like reinforces like the importance of like good communication, whether or not you're verbalizing it and having it transcribed or something that's kind of written in advance. And again, that's kind of where I really like the test setup that we have with like the very, very straightforward, like before and after, like, because you can generate, build lots of different test case, which convey like a lot of information.
Yes.
And on this project of trying to like extract the rule set from this Sizemore open source project, it was, the quality of the code was actually pretty nice. Like it was well documented. A byproduct of how they're doing this with Rust is the test is all in line with the implementation. So it's like when a model goes through and loads that up into context, it's got like everything it needs. Like it has a pretty good explanation of what it's trying to do, and it already has test cases built in of what it would have expected to pass or fail. So again, like I think I was very successful in this because like there was high quality code going into the process.
Absolutely. Yeah, and when we made that test framework, we just wanted something really readable for human engineers, and I think that's maybe and that led to it being something that's easy for LLMs to work with. I think that coming up with an API design that is terse and descriptive it makes it easier for LLMs to work with, right? Like the amount of attention an LLM can pay to any given thing is inversely proportional to like how much context it has to grapple with at the same time. So like the less noise there is in your API, the more there is only exactly one way to do things, the more successful both a new human will be to the code base to work on it, as well as a new agent. Which just today I was I had occasion to notice something in our own code base that we have a rarely used method called update cursor. And I think most of the places that it's used in the code base, it's not actually doing anything. Like it isn't necessary to be used at all. And I'm
Hmm.
like, well, it's not harming anything, except that now people and LLMs might copy this to places where it doesn't make sense because many of the examples of it being used aren't actually achieving anything. It's just going to be like sprinkled in there in an LLM's output later, or in a human copying and pasting to all the
Yep.
same. So it has the as I've used agentic coding more. My one of my takeaways is to go back to our own APIs and like try to cut out extraneous stuff, and particularly remove even innocuous mistakes that they aren't learned from, or aren't replicated many
Yeah,
times.
perpetuated going forward. Yep,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Hmm.
It should be no surprise that what's good for humans is good for the robots too, right? In terms of
Pretty
understanding.
much.
Yep.
Pretty much. Well, this is excellent stuff, Scott. Do you have is anything else we missed or didn't touch upon? Anything I should have asked you that I haven't yet?
Oh my gosh. No, that's all I
Cool.
can think of. This has been
Cool.
fun. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming, Scott. And yeah, I think next week Code Remix is going to be taken over by Ruz Mazabi, who is I don't even know if I'm going to be on there, if he's just like totally taking it over and kicking me off. But maybe I'll be there, maybe I won't. But either way, it should be fun. Ruse is a fun guy, so look forward to that one, everyone. And until next week, or until maybe 2 weeks from now when I'm back, we'll see. Goodbye for now.
Sam, if you're not on it next week, you can just deal with it.
Exactly. Nice. I got to get some of those glasses. Those are real good. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.